You know, one of the most important things to realize about a truck wreck is that it's not just like a big car wreck. Truck wrecks are extremely complicated because the truck, the motor carrier, and the truck driver themselves are covered by federal and state regulations that have all sorts of requirements as to the rules that they're supposed to follow. And so that's very different than if you just have a collision between two passenger vehicles. One of the main differences is that the motor carrier and the truck driver are covered by federal and state regulations. And so then the regulations govern a lot of different things about how the motor carrier can operate and a lot of different things about how the truck driver themselves behaves. If you're going to hire a lawyer to help you with your truck wreck claim, it's very important that you pick someone that is extremely familiar with these regulations and has prosecuted a lot of truck wrecks in the past. After the collision, one of the most important things you can do is try to document the scene and document the parties as much as you possibly can. So to the extent that you're able and you're not too injured, you want to, of course, take pictures of the vehicles involved. You want to take pictures of the scene. You want to document the location of any debris or tire marks. You want to get the contact information for all of the witnesses and the parties involved. You want to give your statement to law enforcement. You want to obviously call emergency responders, make sure that you and anyone else who is hurt gets taken care of by EMS and fire. And you also want to make sure that you call the police and get them to help you document the scene and interview the witnesses. One of the first calls that you should make after leaving the scene is that you should get a lawyer involved who's experienced in these sorts of cases. And it's very important that you pick a lawyer who's experienced with truck wrecks as opposed to just car wrecks in general. When you're calling the lawyers and you're calling the law firms, make sure that you ask really tough questions about the experience that they have and the verdicts that they've obtained and the settlements that they've obtained in truck wrecks specifically. That's going to be really important for you to get the best result possible for your truck wreck claim. Truck wrecks can happen for a lot of different reasons, just like car wrecks can happen, but there are some unique characteristics about a truck wreck collision that is a little bit different. As you probably know, trucks have blind spots that are far larger than what your ordinary passenger vehicle has. And so to the extent you can, you want to avoid driving in those blind spots. Trucks can't see very well directly behind the trailer, and they also can't see very well on either side of the trailer. So you want to stay, if you can, to the extent possible, you don't want to not drive next to an 18-wheeler because they may not see you in that lane and they may change lanes directly into you. And sometimes when that happens, honestly, they don't even know they've hit something. They can hit you because they're so heavy, they can hit you and spin you off the road and they don't even know that it happened. 18-wheelers, when they're loaded, will weigh somewhere around 80,000 pounds. That's the same as 20 passenger vehicles. They're extremely heavy, extremely powerful, and when they run into you, it normally results in bad things. So stay away from them to the extent you can. Also, if you're going to pass an 18-wheeler and you go and you pull in front of them in their same lane, you don't want to do that if you're right in front of them. They do not have the stopping power because they're so heavy and so big. They can't stop like a passenger vehicle can. And so when you're passing them, you want to make sure that you leave enough room between the back of your vehicle and the front of that 18-wheeler. If you cut them short, they may not be able to stop in time. And that may result in a split liability claim. What I mean by that is that you may be partially at fault for that collision, even though the 18-wheeler rear-ended you. It's not reasonable for a passenger car to go around an 18-wheeler and whip in front of them and slam on their brakes because the 18-wheeler can't stop it. It's very important that you contact a lawyer who's familiar with truck wrecks and has done and had success with truck wrecks as soon as possible. Why? Because it's going to be incumbent upon that lawyer to document the evidence as soon as possible. And what I mean by documenting the evidence is we have to get downloads potentially of your vehicle, downloads of the 18-wheeler, ECM or electronic control module, because we have to assemble that evidence before that evidence is erased. So you cannot delay. You've got to call an attorney immediately and get them investigating the collision. Certainly the motor carrier will be calling their insurance company, and their insurance company will be investigating immediately. So you also need to get somebody investigating immediately so that they don't get behind the 8 ball, or that they don't end up having evidence that's destroyed that you may need in the prosecution of your claim.